Hey, how you doing? How's work? Work is great. Work is great. We're doing well and everything. Everything. Oh, shut up. What's up, my fellow devs? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys enjoyed that little intro. I kind of want to start doing things like that where I'm showing you guys what we're going to be building before we get into the tutorial to kind of get you guys excited. If you do like that, let me know down in the comments. Real quick, I want to let you guys know that I have been getting back to streaming on Twitch. I was very faithful to it a few years ago, but I'm getting back into it where I play maybe a lot of games, do developments for my game, and also development streams for Lumberyard that I'm going to start doing. So if you guys want to swing by and ask questions, or if you guys just want to support me in that endeavor, that'd be great. You can find the link to the description down below, or you can see the link on the screen right now. I just got affiliated as well, so I have a sub button. So if you guys want to support me in that manner, but yeah, let's get right into this video. So as you guys have noticed, my last few videos, I've been trying out a new format where I try to go through things quickly, especially for the topics that we already talked about, that I have gone over more than once over these last 3 years with the engine. Yeah, so we have two characters. We have a player bot and we have an enemy bot. So as you can see here on the side, we have our input for the player, and if you guys have my toolkit from Gumroad, then you already have this available to you. I am in the process of updating that asset, so look forward to that. So we have the input, which is going to give us, simple things, our forward, backward, right, left, mouse. And I added the attack one, which you need to add that. I have it set as attack one. You can name it whatever you want. And we have the event generator, and I have it set to spacebar just for the context of this video. So you can set it to whatever you want, left mouse click, what have you. Make sure you also set another generator for keyboard if you want to support that. All right. So we have an actor, of course, very standard there. We have a animation graph. We have a character controller, and I have it set to the shape of a capsule, which is why you see this yellow outline here. And of course we have our camera rotation, which also was a part of the toolkit. I believe I've shown you guys how to do that from jump. I'll find that video and link that as well. And then we have our movement script, which is also part of the toolkit, and a tag graph. Now, if it's not a part of the toolkit, I've done a video on it on the channel. So I've done a video on how to rotate the character. I've done a video on character movement, and these are actually recent. We'll be going over the attack graph very soon because that's kind of new. And then you have the enemy robot, which is actually pretty standard. We also have an actor. We have an animation graph. We have the physics collider, because it's not a character, so we don't need a character controller, it needs a collider. And then it has a rigid body, because if you don't have rigid body when it has a physics collider, you're telling the engine that the object is static, that it's not going to be moving, and we don't want that. And then we have our receive event, which we're using script events, so we'll be going over that. And then of course I have a tag for good measure for enemy, which I am very pro tag when it comes to this engine. All right, so we have that. Make sure that you guys have that copied. So if we go over to our player, if we open up our graph, it's very standard. As you can see, I have an idle, and then I have a punch. You guys should already know how to set up a graph and how to add motions and motion nodes. If you don't, I will be linking a video in the description. Check that video out first and then come back here. All right, so we have idle. You can see that I have the motion selected, and I called it idle. I have a motion set, robot player. Same thing with punch. Want a motion selected, and it's linked to robot player, but I didn't load the workspace, which is why it's not on here. But if I click on that, that's what it's going to be. It's the same thing. All right, and I have one boolean, and it's called attack, and that is what drives the idle going from idle to punch, and then back to punch to idle. It's just basically like a playtime condition, which means by the time we reach the end of the animation, the punching animation, it's going to go back to idle, which is very good, very cool. All right, so let's close that out. All right, and now for the attack graph, which is new here, we're gonna open that up. It's actually very, very simple. There's a lot of ways you can do this. I did the more simpler way. you'll definitely want to have some checks, Boolean checks, to make sure that you're not repeating certain actions and that you're accounting for, double calls. Maybe you want to punch once every, animation frame, or you want to make the animation to end before you can punch again. Things like that, you want to account for those things, but that's out of the scope of this tutorial. So we have the pressed button, and as you can see here, I have attack 1, which is what I named the new event that I told you guys to add if you don't already have it to your input events. And then I have set named parameter bool for the anim graph that's attached to this entity, and I called it attack. So we want to set that boolean to true. And then I have a small delay of 0.2 seconds before I'm setting that same bool back to false. That way we can punch again by the time the animation ends. All right, and that's it. Very simple. Very simple. Now let's close that. Once you have that, now the change in difference here, as you can see here, I'm going to cut this off. Well, I need to cut that off, but as you can see here, we have a collider on our wrist. So it is our driving force for when we collide with another collider to do actions with it. And this is very common when you're doing things like combat, because every combat system isn't going to be based off physics. We're not going to use on collision. We're going to use a trigger area, right? So if you can see here on my player, if I go down to our child entities, you will see that I have one for camera and one for attack hands. All right, and all that is, if we go over here to the inspector, is we have an attachment. All right, and since we're already, if we have the, as you can see here, we have a target entity of the player robot, which gives us access to the joint name that I have for the right hand, so that it will always follow the right hand whenever we're moving. All right, so then you can do some modifications to put it in the right space to make sure that it's covering the hand. The reason why this looks like this, because it's in T pose, but if it was to go into his fist, it'll cover the whole hand. You want to make it small enough and make sure that it does not collide with anything, unless you're going to do different checks, like making sure that it doesn't collide with the player itself, which I had to account for, and I'll show you guys that. And make sure that it doesn't collide when you hit like another object or something like that if it's not the enemy. So we have that attachment. We have a physics collider, which is a given, but the only difference is that we're turning this into a trigger. See that checkbox there? Make sure that's checked, because that's telling us that we want to listen out for trigger events when it collides with another collider. All right, and we have a script canvas, and then we have an audio trigger for sound, which you guys already know how to do because I have a video tutorial on it already on the channel. All right, so let's open up the script canvas, and as you can see, that's our trigger area here. Very simple. So what we're doing here is we have the on trigger enter. So this is why you need to turn that collider into a trigger so that we can run these events. So on trigger enter, meaning that when something enters our trigger on our hand, we first want to see if it has a tag of enemy, which is why I added a tag to the enemy. All right, if it does, we're gonna have a if. If it's true, we're gonna do a once or a do once, coming from something like Unreal. So one time we want to execute trigger, the sound, and I called it punch. Like I said, you guys already know how to create sounds inside of Wise and all that good stuff. This is where that came from. And as you can see here, I have a script event called attack. Now, if you can look over to the left, you can see that under DevShop library that I'm actually creating a library for you guys of script events. I'm working on this now. I have a lot that I want to add to it before I release it. But if you already have the toolkit from Gumroad, then you'll get this for free. It'll just be an update. So I'm working on this, adding to it. It's going to have more than this combating UI, and then within all those, it's going to have different events that you can call and just do logic to. So working on that. And then we have a delay for a second that I'm going to reset and then go back to reset the do once node. And this is just basically to make sure that you can't keep punching or keep calling the damage from the attack every time. There's other ways you can handle that, but for the scope of this tutorial, this is how I'm doing it. So it's a delay of 1 second so that you can only punch one time, and anything that you do within that logic will happen one time. All right, so let's go ahead and close that out once you guys have that. Very simple. All right, so on our enemy, the only thing that they're going to be doing is receiving the event, right? So only thing that I did for the enemy outside of the player is we have the same setup, right? If we open up our animation graph, you can see that we also have an idle, but all it has is a death. And then when you're doing a death transition, you don't have a return transition because they're not coming back from the death, right? So, death boolean, and it's making sure that if it equals 1, that is going to die. Very simple, real simple. All right, so let's close that. If you pause the video if you need to, but you guys already know how to do this, hopefully. And if not, check out the videos to do so. All right, so now if we scroll down to our script canvas, as you can see on our events, very simple. So we're just receiving the script event attack from when it's sent from the player when it punches. And all we're doing is setting the death boolean on the animation graph to true. All right, and that's it. And then the player, player dies. So when you put all that together, you get a punch. That sounds funny. Now this animation has root motion on it, which is why you get that snap back to the original position. But yeah, that's how you get that. So as you can see, since there's no return for the death animation for the enemy or the coworker rather, that they stay dead. So of course you'll want to factor in health and depleting of health and checking if it's 0 before you kill the enemy. But you get the idea. All right, so that's the tutorial, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Very simple. You guys already know how to throw a punch, or rather, you guys already know how to create a character, and now you know how to throw a punch. So if you guys have any questions or comments, let me know down below. Don't forget that I am streaming on Twitch now, so if you guys want to check that out, you guys can actually see what my face looks like, even though you might see it, before this video is out. Oh, you probably won't. But check me out on Twitch. You guys have my Patreon and PayPal down below if you want to support the channel. Support me as a developer. Check out my projects. Check out my games. But yeah. But other than that, hope you guys are having a very dope day. Don't forget to join the Discord. Hope you guys are prospering in your projects. And until next time, keep developing. Laid out. Boy. Look at her. Knocked.